He woke up every morning with a tightness in his chest, though nothing was technically wrong. His apartment was small but clean. His job paid the bills. His health was fine. But somewhere between the alarm clock and the first sip of coffee, a familiar heaviness would settle over him, like a blanket he couldn't shake off. It started years ago, so gradually he didn't notice at first. Someone would cut him off in traffic, and instead of letting it pass, he'd replay the moment for hours. A co-worker would forget to thank him for something small, and he'd carry that slight like a stone in his pocket. A text left on read, a plan that fell through, a comment that stung just enough to remember. Each one felt minor at the time, barely worth mentioning, but he held on to them anyway. He didn't mean to, it just seemed automatic, the way his mind would return to these moments when he was alone, turning them over and over, examining them from every angle, asking why they happened, what they meant about him, whether he deserved them. He started keeping a mental inventory without realizing it. The time his father forgot his birthday 3 years ago, the friend who stopped calling back, the promotion that went to someone else, the relationship that ended with no real explanation. None of these were catastrophic. People go through worse every day. But for him, they accumulated like dust in an unused room, invisible at first, then impossible to ignore. He began to notice how much energy it took just to get through a normal day. Conversations felt heavier. Smiles required effort. He'd come home exhausted even when he'd done nothing physically demanding. His shoulders ached. His jaw was always tight. He assumed this was just adulthood, just the way life felt after a certain point, the price of experience. One evening after work, he stopped at a park he used to walk through as a kid. He sat on a bench near the pond, watching the water catch the last light of the day. An older man sat down on the other end of the bench, holding a paper bag of bread for the ducks. They didn't speak at first. The man just tore small pieces and tossed them gently into the water. After a while, the man said, almost to himself, that he used to come here with his wife every Sunday. She'd been gone 5 years now. He said it quietly, not looking for sympathy, just stating a fact. Then he said something that stayed. He said he spent the first 2 years angry at everything. Angry at doctors, at God, at himself, at the weather, at people who still had their partners. He carried all of it everywhere he went. And then one day he realized he was exhausted. Not sad, exhausted. Like he'd been carrying bags of stones up a hill for years, and suddenly couldn't remember why. He said he started asking himself a question every night before bed. Just one question. What am I still holding that I don't need to hold anymore? Not what he should forgive, not what he should let go of in some grand spiritual sense, just what was taking up space inside him that served no purpose. Some nights the answer was nothing. Some nights it was something small, a grudge against a neighbor, resentment over something his brother said a decade ago, shame about a mistake that nobody else even remembered. He didn't try to force anything, he just noticed. And slowly, without drama or revelation, some of those things started to feel less important. Not gone, just lighter. The man finished his bread and stood up slowly, his knees stiff. He nodded once and walked away. He sat there for a long time after that, watching the ducks glide across the water, leaving barely a ripple. He thought about everything he'd been carrying. The list was long. The slights and disappointments and moments of rejection, all carefully preserved like artifacts in a museum he never asked to curate. He realized he'd been treating his hurt like evidence, like proof of something important about the world or about himself. But sitting there in the fading light, he couldn't remember what he was trying to prove anymore. That night, he lay in bed and asked himself the question, what am I still holding that I don't need to hold anymore? The answer came quickly. The way his ex looked at him during their last argument. He'd replayed that look 1,000 times, used it to confirm every bad thing he believed about himself. But what if he just stopped? Not forgave her, not reframed it, not healed from it in some therapeutic way, just stopped carrying it. He imagined setting it down like a bag he'd been gripping for miles. His hand would ache at first from the absence, but then it would be free. He tried it, just for that night. He let himself imagine that moment didn't live inside him anymore. It existed, it happened, but it wasn't his to carry. He fell asleep easier than he had in months. The next day he noticed a coworker made a dismissive comment during a meeting. Normally he would have saved that, turned it into a story about how people didn't respect him, replayed it during his commute. Instead, he noticed himself reaching for it, the way you'd reach for a phone in your pocket, and he just didn't pick it up. The comment still happened, it still stung a little, but he didn't make a home for it. He didn't add it to the collection, it just passed through, the way most things do when you let them. This became his practice. Not every day, not perfectly, but more often than before. When something hurt, he'd feel it, acknowledge it, and then ask himself if he needed to keep it. Sometimes the answer was yes. Some pain is worth remembering. Some anger protects you. Some sadness honors what mattered. But a lot of it, he realized, was just habit. The reflex of holding on because he always had, because it felt safer than letting things dissolve into the past where they belonged. Weeks passed, then months. He didn't become a different person. He still felt things deeply, still got hurt, still had hard days. But the tightness in his chest loosened, his shoulders dropped. Conversations felt lighter because he wasn't carrying the last 10 into the next one. He started sleeping through the night. He laughed at something stupid on TV and realized he hadn't really laughed in a long time. He ran into an old friend who'd drifted away years ago, and instead of cataloging the hurt of that distance, he just enjoyed the 15 minutes they talked. One morning he woke up and realized the heaviness was gone. Not because everything was perfect, but because he'd stopped adding weight to things that were already over. He still remembered the moments that hurt him. They were part of his story, but they didn't live in his chest anymore. They lived in the past, where they belonged, beside all the moments that brought joy and meaning and growth. He understood now that holding on to pain doesn't make you strong or deep or justified. It just makes you tired. And letting it go doesn't mean it didn't matter. It means you matter more than the endless cataloging of every small wound. Some nights, he still sits by the pond. He doesn't feed the ducks. He just watches the water and asks himself the question, what am I still holding that I don't need to hold anymore? Sometimes the answer surprises him. Sometimes there's nothing. Either way, he sleeps a little lighter. If you're listening to this and you feel that familiar heaviness, that tightness that has no clear source, maybe try the question tonight. Not as a cure, not as a solution, just as a practice. What am I still holding that I don't need to hold anymore? You don't have to let go of everything. You don't have to forgive everyone. You don't have to forget what hurt you. But you can choose what you carry. You can choose what gets space inside you. And maybe, slowly, you'll notice your hands are freer than you thought. Maybe you'll notice you can hold something new, something lighter, something that feels more like the life you actually want to live. The weight was never the world. It was never the people who hurt you. It was the choice, made quietly every day, to keep picking up what you could have left behind. And the beautiful thing, the thing nobody tells you, is that you can choose differently. Not all at once, not perfectly, but enough. Enough to breathe a little deeper. Enough to walk a little lighter. Enough to remember that you were never meant to carry everything. Just what matters. Just what helps. Just what you choose. If this story gave you something to think about, if it made you feel a little less alone in what you carry, consider subscribing to the channel. There are more stories like this one, quiet reflections on the small weight we all hold, and maybe together we can learn to set some of it down. Leave a like if you'd like to hear more. Thank you for listening.